What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Busy day in tech today. Let's jump right in. So first up, we are going to give an update or a summary of the AWS outage from last week. So I did a video on that, and I'll post it up here. In this video, a link to that. But right now, since the outage, AWS has made a formal announcement and a explanation of what actually happened during that time period. So I'm just gonna read some excerpts from this article that AWS put out. As always, I will leave a link in the description of this video. But basically, AWS goes on to say, we wanted to provide you with some additional information about the service disruption that occurred in the North Virginia U.S. East 1 region on October 19th and October 20th, 2025. While the event started at 11:48 p.m. on October 19th and ended at 2:20 p.m. on October 20th, there were three distinct periods of impact to customer applications. First, between 11:48 and 2:40 a.m. on October 20th, Amazon DynamoDB experienced increased API error rates in the U.S. East 1 region. Second, between 5:30 and 2:05 p.m. on October 2nd, NLB or network load balancers experience increased connection errors for some load balancers in North Virginia US 1 region. This was caused by health check failures in the NLB fleet, which resulted in increased connection errors on some NLBs. Third, between 2:25 a.m. and 10:36 a.m. on October 20th, new EC2 instance launches failed, and while instance launches began to succeed from 10:37 a.m., some newly launched instances experienced connectivity issues which were resolved by 1:50. So basically, the article goes on to say that the root cause was because of DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name Service. And you can think about DNS as basically, if you want to think about it as like a yellow pages for the internet. So it knows how to route www.yahoo.com to a specific IP address. And instead of having to remember that IP address, which those could change depending on the ISP, people just remember the domain name. So basically, this is saying that there was a error in the DNS management. The root cause of this issue was a latent race condition in the DynamoDB DNS management system that resulted in an incorrect empty DNS record for the service's regional endpoint, which is this guy here, dynamodb.us1.amazonaws.com, that the automation failed to repair. So basically, root cause here, DNS issue, like they said previously, and it all boils down to automation trying to self-fill, and there was a race condition. So you had one particular service trying to apply the latest updates, and the service prior to that one still had old records in place, and it was taking longer than normal to update, which kind of caused a cascade effect with several of the other services. But it looks like they only had this in one particular region. So if you were in US East 2, or if you had your application set up as multi-region, you probably wouldn't notice this outage as much. So Like I said, I'll drop a link in the description for this official announcement from AWS. On the heels of that article, today, 10/29/2025, we've had another outage of sorts. According to AWS, they didn't have any issues, but I've seen reports from my organization and several other organizations online that there was definitely a outage in Microsoft Azure services. So these could be related. So even though AWS is claiming or suggesting that their services were online the entire time, if there's a connection, which a couple of these things may be tied to the hip, depending on what services that you're using, you could have been down on AWS if you can log in through like a Microsoft federated service or a Microsoft proxy service. So, but I'll leave the link in the article to this. Also, this is kind of outlines where some down detector reports were saying that several outages were reported on AWS on today. So, like I said, more to come on that. Also, here is the link to the AWS service health page. So, basically, they are reporting that. Well, this is actually yesterday's date. So this was on yesterday that they had increased error rates and latencies, but everything's back online now. But this is always a good link to have in your back pocket just to kind of check your application's health status. There's times when your particular application may not be affected, but several other applications are affected. But this would be the place to come here and start. So either you can go to health.aws.amazon.com /health/status, or from within your AWS account, you can go to the AWS Health dashboard, and it'll give you basically a rundown of a list of affected services. It also kind of tell you if you have some upcoming services that may be affected. So like one of the big ones that we've seen is Pinpoint is going away some point next year, so they kind of have that already in the health dashboard that's saying, hey, you have about a year left to switch over to end user, what's called end user management or end user communication service. So they're basically taking a lot of the pieces out of Pinpoint and just kind of put them in a different service offering. But stuff like that will be in that dashboard. And then finally, basically a recap from what happened on the outage, the major outage from AWS last week, is basically you have all of these, a lot of businesses were affected. So banks, healthcare, insurers, technology companies. And even though this article kind of leads with what's been imposed in New York, this actually has cross-cutting concerns across several industries if you rely on the cloud. So, and this article is just going on to say that this is probably a good time to make sure you have your ducks in a row. And I just have a highlighted segment here that I wanted to go over real quick. So, for financial institutions, insurers, and fintech companies subject to the NYDFS oversight, the message is simple. Covered entities have become more reliant on third-party vendors, and vendor management should be as rigorous as internal risk management. For everyone else, this guidance signals a growing regulatory expectation across industries, from Securities and Exchange Commission's cyber disclosure rules to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, emphasis on third-party supervision. This concept is spreading. Regulators no longer see third-party risk as a separate issue from cybersecurity or operational resilience. They see it as one and the same. So basically, that's just, in layman's terms, if you will, this is just saying, even though you may not be in control of that third-party service that you use for authentication, or that you use for fraud detection, you are still responsible for that, and they're kind of just putting it within the confines of your application. So the consumer of your application could care less that you use some other third-party service for authentication. They know they are coming to your application to do whatever service they need or whatever offering you have. So they kind of see that as one. So this is basically I don't know if you want to say it's a dog whistle, but it should be a wake-up call to kind of anybody that relies on cloud infrastructure. This is eye awakening. Basically, what we saw from the outage last week was that AWS is slowly becoming a monopoly, if you will, and you just need to make sure you have your ducks in a row. Is your application or your service that you're hosting on AWS, is it at a point where you can stand it up in another cloud provider within 8 to 10 hours if something malicious happened to your current hosting service? So just food for thought. All these things can be done, but of course they come at a cost. So time and money is the cost here, but just really depending on what you are building or what you are offering with your service, at the end of the day, that extra infrastructure could be nominal. So it could be as simple as, all right, I need to have this system that's cold on premise somewhere. I may not even want to deal with the cloud anymore if something goes offline. So just really things to consider about as you go through this journey with cloud and building out infrastructure on top of all of these other services. So at the end of the day, we are really building on the shoulders of giants, and this is just kind of what comes with it. So and then I love this here, the takeaway: you can't outsource a storm. The AWS service disruption didn't expose a new risk. It simply made an existing abstract risk tangible. For years, regulators and risk professionals have warned that the cloud doesn't make risk disappear, it just moves it off premise. At the end of the day, even when your data lives in the cloud, your accountability sits firmly at your doorstep. If your organization hasn't revisited its third-party risk management program, cloud contracts are resilience testing lately, now is the time. So, like I said, just basically a wake-up call to make sure you have all your ducks in a row with anything you're running in the cloud, or I'm going to say off the cloud also, because you can have the same impact on a private data center. So, at any rate, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe.